I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is
On this
that
sad
is a
clown.
sad clown.
Proud of my address.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha Packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Another exciting episode. I feel like I say that every time, but it really is cool just to get to spend time with some of our leaders in F3. And today, recently we had a shovel pass at the farm, and I was upon arrival. There were three gentlemen there in taco costumes, and it was pretty amazing just to see the culture that's been created there. And so just really that goes to the guys that have been leading that site. And so, Ferdinand obviously started that, but today we're talking to Schrute, who continued, with that site as a leader and then recently passed off to Skidz. And so Schrute, man, it's good to see you. Thanks for taking time to chat. And, where we like to start these is just, what was your first workout like? Who EH'd you? And then how did we give you the name Schrute?
Yeah, I think like the name is always kind of an interesting one that gets debated a little bit, but the first workout was March 9th, 2021. I was EH'd by Soda Pop, who is a guy who hasn't posted in, gosh, it's probably been almost 2 years now. He was on me for a little while and I was kind of stalling, and it was those cold months like January, February, and I was stalling. I wasn't sure about it. And then there was a nice morning in March and he's like, come on, the weather's gonna be great. Come on out. And I did. And I walked up there and I was looking around and I saw a familiar face besides him. And, I didn't know his F3 name at the time. I knew him as Josh Vocek. We all know him as Swiper. And I was like, oh, I know you. I've coached his daughter in sports before and he's coached my daughter in basketball. And so it was nice to see another familiar face out there. And he had just joined like 2 days prior. So,
Cool.
so we had that kind of in common. And he was, talking my ear off about, oh yeah, some of this pre-run, this and that. And I'm just like, wow, these guys kind of crazy, what am I getting myself into? And so it was at the sanitarium, did the workout, and it was tough. I remember it was tough. And the naming part was, so one of the things I volunteer a lot with is the soccer club, the Pavilion Soccer Club, and I'm the vice president there. And so I was sitting up there, explaining who I am, some of the things, that I do. And I don't even know, it's just kind of chaotic. There's so much going on. You're kind of short breath because it's your first beat down. And I couldn't hear what was being said exactly or who said what. And, Schrute was thrown out there. And I thought it was because I said like vice president, and at the time I thought, they were drawing connection to Dwight Schrute being the assistant to the regional manager. And I don't even know who said it at the time, but Swiper's taking credit for it.
Okay.
We'll give him the credit. He loves the name guys. And he said it was because I was talking about working in an office. So I guess that's it. That's, not the most exciting story, but I love the name. It's kind of stupid, but it's fun at the same time.
Yeah, that is funny. Were you familiar with Dwight and the character? I mean, have you watched The Office before?
Definitely. I started watching The Office with the European version before it ever came to the States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. It is funny. Sometimes we land on these names that have nothing to do with what the guy even says or does or who, but yeah, it's interesting too. The guy that EH'd you is no longer posting. We gotta get him back out, but he's still in contact with Soda Pop.
I haven't been for a while. I did try a couple times, when I had something, big for me, like when I took over the farm and did the flag pass. I tried to get him to come out there, or I think he was there probably for my first VQ possibly, but I'm not sure. I have to go back and look at that. So, but no, it's been a while since I've had some contact with him, but good reminder to reach out and see if maybe he wants to come back.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, you never know. We got there's a lot of guys in that category for sure. Curious your thoughts. So you mentioned though it was a challenging workout. What were you doing fitness wise before? Were you running or doing anything on your own?
So was kind of more into some weight training at
Okay.
the time. And so, you know, obviously everybody's routines kind of changed when the pandemic hit and COVID happened. And I had just kind of set up a home gym in my garage. And so I was kind of like big into trying to get into weight, like, weight training and kind of lifting heavy. And so that was kind of my thing. I wasn't doing really any cardio at the time. And now I feel like I've kind of flipped 180 where I haven't touched weights in forever. Everything's body weight at the workouts. And obviously I pretty much don't miss a pre-run if I go to a beat down
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. Do you notice a difference? I mean, do you feel because you do I see you out running all the time. Do you feel healthier or where do you think you're at today, fitness wise?
Absolutely. I prefer what I'm doing today over what I was doing. I thought I liked the time it was like, oh, I like to work out by myself, right? That's what I told myself.
Yeah.
And I think I was a little bit more introverted then. I think F3 has helped me be more of an extrovert. I don't know if I'm really an extrovert, but it's allowed me to become more vulnerable, put myself out there more. And I've learned a lot through those experiences. And so, yeah, I think definitely the preference for me is definitely now working out with these excellent group of these guys that have just become great friends, and the relationships I built have been phenomenal.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think it's interesting too, like the sort of the typical workout, right? You like go to the gym or you have weights at home and it's just kind of like I don't know, maybe we think that's how you work out or become fit. And then we get introduced to F3 and we're like, wait a minute, I don't think I really realized how effective body weight workouts were until F3. I was doing some running on my own, but even just doing like the Murph, right? You realize like over time, like your arms and your chest and your, and your, whatever back get stronger from doing a Murph every Monday or two Murphs every Monday for a year and a half or however long. But
Definitely.
where else? I mean, just sort of mentally or, spiritually, emotionally, what do you think made you, was it the weather was it that easy? Just the weather was nice and you said, okay, I'll do it. Or what else sort of do you think internally prepared you to come out that first day in March?
I think it was just I'm not good at saying no, and he was
Yeah.
persistent enough that I gave in, right? And so kudos to him for doing that. And that's always been a struggle for me in life is saying no. I love a challenge. I love setting goals for myself, things like that. But I will say I posted that day, and then a cold front came through, and I didn't come back for about 2 weeks. So
Okay.
not a lot of guys know this because I don't miss too many beat downs nowadays. But when I first started, it was I waited for that cold front to pass, and then he was like, come on, get back out here. And so I did, went and posted again, and then I was posting 2 or 3 times a week, and then that kind of gradually built up to the pretty quickly to where it was I'm consistent 5-6 days a week now.
Yeah. Do you think that second time, I think it sounds like Soda Pop reached out and was kind of kept being persistent. But what do you think like at what point do you feel like it sort of clicked where you're like, okay, this is like what I do now? Do you remember that moment?
For me, it was just the build up, like getting used to the routine. Anytime you start something new in life, it takes a couple weeks for it to become a habit. And so for that routine, getting used to waking up that early, I wasn't too fond of it early on. Now it's like I love it because it's my time, right? Like
Yeah.
because I'm a really busy family man with my volunteer work, with my kids' sports, with my marriage, just everything that I do. It's go go go. That's kind of the life I live, and so that's my time in the morning. I can wake up. I can go do what I love to do while the rest of the house is sleeping. I
Mhm.
try really hard not to wake my wife up, which I'm not very good at because she an alarm goes off and she's up. So she gets mad at me a little bit for waking her up on a few days a week. But
Yeah.
um I think just kind of all those reasons is kind of what got me out there. And then, just seeing other guys out there there's a lot of guys from like soccer that I didn't realize were doing F3. And
Mm.
so, you start seeing as you go to a couple more workouts, you see, oh, I know this guy, but I don't really know him that well. And you start building those relationships. And for me, it just all started building up over those next few weeks until I got into that consistent habit of going pretty much almost every day.
Nice. Hey, a pro tip for you on trying, something to try at least. I switched over about a year, maybe it's been a year and a half ago now, where I just use the alarm on my watch. So if you sleep with the watch on and it has an alarm, so that's actually been working for me. So I don't have an audible alarm. It just vibrates on my wrist and I get up and so, I don't know.
I need to try that. So I need to get in the habit of my Apple Watch charging this thing because the battery in these things are terrible.
Yeah, it's something worth trying, right? At least my wife was the same way. She's like, this isn't going to work if you're going to wake me up every time you go. So that's funny. What you mentioned a little bit being more introverted, but also kind of started talking about the relationships that you build. And I know a lot of guys are maybe more introverted or don't feel like, how do I initiate a conversation? So how did you sort of transition some of those acquaintances into more friendships or relationships? What was your strategy there?
So I think it was early on, it was find somebody you have something in common with, right? So I go back to soccer a lot. Other guys who were coaching soccer or guys who I didn't know were doing F3 that served on the same soccer board that I did, like Knobs, Knobs and I were on the Pavilion Soccer Club board for a couple of years. And I didn't know he did this F3 stuff. And so I think he missed an opportunity to maybe EH me, right? Yeah. But anyways, I think it was just, going from that, developing my leadership a little bit through F3, developing those friendships further. And it was just finding guys you have something in common with. And then there was something, you start a conversation as I was a little scared to start pre-runs. I didn't do pre-runs for a while. And then there was always one pre-run that scared me even more because I would see guys like Swiper and Girl Dad at the GZ running like sub 8s, 7:30, average mile, and I'm just like, that's crazy. I'm not even close to that. And, so I kind of was hesitant to jump in and do pre-runs. I was hesitant to do, my first halfway house. But eventually, I got myself built up to do that. I think it's just kind of proving to yourself that you can do it. That for me, just the confidence came slowly and gradually.
Yeah. Do you feel like though the pre-runs and just running in general, I think we hear that from a lot of guys, but was that a good second half builder for you?
I'd say everybody has to do these pre-runs. It's the morning, like if you go to a beat down, that's great and everything, but the pre-runs are really what should, I think, the glue. For me, it's like one of those things that's the glue because of that second half, those opportunities. Not just take your fitness to another level. So there's that benefit, but the second half and the relationships you build then and the things you learn about guys during those pre-runs that you just don't get that same opportunity to talk to guys during the beat downs. You do at coffee if you're a guy who has time to stick around for coffee, but the pre-runs, talk about family, talk about life, talk about, challenges, things that, whatever it might be. There's just so many different ways those conversations go. Yeah. They're always great conversations.
Have you been able to attend coffee much, or you have to kind of get out early after the workout?
Yeah, I attend coffee, I'd say about 50% of the time. Yeah. On-site coffee is always the best. Yeah. It's sure. Just the easiest, or, the days that the beat down start a little bit earlier at 5:15, it allows me to, stick around for coffee. But I also got to be kind of watching my watch a little bit, just to make sure I can get home, help get the kids out of bed, get them ready in the morning. They're old enough, but they need a little push. Otherwise, they're kind of slacking a little bit to get ready for school.
Yeah, same here, man. I love the 5:15 starts because it feels like you have an extra, it feels like you have an extra half hour, but it's probably only, it's only 15 minutes or whatever. Yeah. But what, you kind of mentioned running and I have not always been into rucking, right? But there's some second half opportunity there. But I do feel like there is this, you mentioned like the intimidation, right? You see these guys that are like, they've always been runners and they're pre-runners and they're running really fast. Like Trench is another guy that I think about, where you're just like, he runs to the workout and he runs to, then he runs home and you're like, what is going on? But any sort of insight there, like how did you overcome that sort of intimidation and just kind of got out there and said, I'm going to do what I can? Or how did you do that?
I think there was people encouraging me,
Okay.
that to just go try it. It's, there's, and then when you have like a CSOP coming up, guys like, oh, you got to start pre-run and prepare yourself for this kind of stuff. And so I think it was just going out there and kind of gradually building that up. But I mean, my advice for guys who are afraid to do a pre-run is just talk to somebody, like talk to any one of us, because I would guarantee you any of your brothers out there will pre-run with you and run at your pace because they want to support you. And I've seen other guys not be afraid to ask for that, say, hey, this is the pace I run at. Does anybody want to join me? And there's always somebody who will step up and run at your pace. And everybody's fitness is, at a different level, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I think guys are always willing to meet somebody where they're at.
Yeah, man, that's great advice. I do think it's having the courage to ask, and say, hey, I want to start pre-running, but I need someone to run with me. Will you do that? Because if we don't know, right, it's hard to support a guy if we don't know what he's trying to do. That's really good advice. What as you're thinking about second F, have there been other second F type events or things that you've had a chance to participate in, like, I don't know, Q Source or free to lead book studies, any of those sorts of things?
So I did have the opportunity to lead Q Source for the first time earlier this year, and that was a great experience. I do regularly try to attend Q Source when I can on Saturday mornings after the pit over at Hy-Vee, and those have been great to just go and participate in those conversations. The free to lead book I have right here. It's on my nightstand. It's on my list of things to read. So I will admit I haven't gotten that done yet, but it's when my schedule with soccer and slows down a little bit here in the next month, I think I'm gonna knock this book out and get it read.
Yeah, they need to make it into an audio book. I mean, somebody needs to just read it and record it. And
yeah,
because I think most of our guys would listen to it, but it's, I don't know. I mean, whatever, we can read it too. It's not that big of a book. But what, as you think about some of the other events, because there's also a big second F component to like a CSOP and some of those things. What's been your experience with those events?
So I would say Saturday mornings would be one of those days that there's a group of guys, and we're not even in shield lock. There's not a lot of shield locks in SARPy. We just some guys will just kind of refer to the SARPy swagger. That is the shield lock. There's no formal invitation. You're just part of it. Jump in when you want to. Some of us, but there's a handful of guys that we do almost like our own little mini pop-up CSOPs almost every Saturday, where we're just doing something completely stupid and utterly pointless just to do it, right? Yeah. Where I think it was Farva started what he calls the meat grinder, and it's Saturday mornings, and we usually start, like 4:30 in the morning. We do a weighted vest Murph, then we do a 5K run, and then we do beat down. And those three components, you turn into what's called the meat grinder. And there's a few guys that always will do it. Yesterday, Farva did his Farva Murph, which is pretty intense also. And I mean, that's about a little over 2 hours to complete something like that. And I joined a little late, I'll admit, on that one. Yesterday, I skipped the first few miles. I needed that little bit of extra sleep. Yeah. But, I think on those second F things, doing those extra hard things with your brothers really helps develop that second F. And then you don't want to say no to stuff on those either, because you don't want to miss it. Like FOMO was a real thing for me. Yeah. And just, I love being out there with the packs and doing hard stuff.
Yeah, totally agree. Like IPC, it just seems like when you're, it's kind of what Free to Lead says as far as like men building relationships, right? We want to get out and do something. And if you do something challenging and you kind of encourage each other through that, it's really valuable. And there's sort of a trust factor, right? Where you kind of learn like who are those guys that are going to stick with me through the really hard things, right? And not give up or sort of, back out, which is awesome. I love that you're getting to experience that. I think, other question I'd have for you, you mentioned shield lock. Are you familiar with like the concentrica model sort of, because some of what comes up too, right? It's like FOMO. Maybe this is like the F3 guy sort of mentality. We all have FOMO and none of us can say no. But I don't know, how have you sort of integrated F3 into some of those key relationships with like your wife or your kids, or how is that going for you?
I think I've definitely carried it over into other aspects of my life, and especially from the opportunities I've had to lead in other areas in life, whether it's at work. I'm a manager at work, and just trying to find little things, not necessarily the fitness part, but what are the leadership things that I see and I've learned through F3 that I can bring to the workplace. And you find those moments. Sometimes it's in a COT, sometimes it's in a story that you hear in a pre-run, but you find those leadership components, the things that guys have talked about or demonstrated or they've learned, and you can carry that into your other life. And then even as a soccer coach, I've brought some of the workout stuff even, and just as part of the training, right?
Yeah.
And so I definitely, I think people know that I do have F3. I talk about it openly at work. I have people ask me about it a lot. Some people, are really curious, but they're always asking, but I can't quite get them EH sometimes. Sometimes they, I can. Yeah, it definitely it's part of who I am.
That's awesome. Yeah, what I struggle with at work is like with the guys that are on my team, I can like totally, give them a hard time and be like, hey man, you gotta get your physical fitness, under control. And I've had some of those conversations trying to get guys out, but that's a different conversation when it's a female employee. You can't really, I think that's frowned upon to try to make those comments. But I love the connection there too with all of those different areas, right? You mentioned like coaching soccer, and so there definitely are pieces we can pull into all the areas of our life. I'm curious, talk to me about like your VQ and maybe what you learned through that experience. How did that help you grow as a leader?
Yeah, my VQ was very special to me personally. I know I had guys saying, hey, you get, encourage me to do my VQ, but I waited a few months. It was about 4 months in. I've seen some guys do it a lot earlier even, but I waited about 4 months intentionally because I had a date in mind. And so I chose a date that is special to me because it was the 6-year anniversary of me losing my younger sister, she passed away almost 8 years ago now. And so it was on July 12th, 2021 that I had my VQ. It was at Titan Alley. And so it was an easy one to lead, right? Because leading, I was there for both the Smurf and the Murph, but I just led the Murph part. Somebody else stepped up, and I think they knew I was nervous when they did that. So, but just being able to be vulnerable in front of the guys and tell the story about my sister, be able to talk about it and how much impact she's had on my life, and I think I've heard other guys in their COTs, especially during a VQ, become very vulnerable. And so I relate to that a lot. And those are the best COTs. If those VQs, guys are willing to, just talk about why they're there, what motivates them, what are the things that they've gone through in life. I mean, we've all faced a lot of adversity in life. And so for me, I think that's always been a defining moment. I never forget that phone call I got on that Sunday morning when I was told about my sister passing away completely unexpected. And so I've kept that date, that July 12th date, as something very special to me. Last year, I led a workout in her honor. It was 7 years since she had passed. And even then, like there's just signs. And I have to tell this story. So last year, it was at the sanitarium on that date, July 12th, 2022. And all the workouts, exercises, I kind of made some stuff up or planned stuff that meant something that I could draw parallel to her life or some significant things there. And so we're doing the workout, and then somebody's like, hey, look at that. There's a bald eagle right there on one of the light poles off the turf, just right there. And I mean, I've been at sanitarium, I don't know how many times. I've never seen anything like that. And it's just like I just feel, there's sometimes just a sign, like, I don't know, God just works in mysterious ways. And I just think he sent that as like a symbolic gesture. Maybe with my sister, or a symbolic gesture. I don't know exactly what it meant, but just to have that right there during the workout was just mind blowing for me personally. Yeah.
That is awesome. I do think, curious, do you mind, you willing to share sort of what happened with your sister, with a car accident, or I guess I haven't heard that story.
So she was going through some hard stuff in life, and was kind of just going through a divorce, and she had alcoholism, and she was recovered from that, and she was spending the night at my parents' house, which she wasn't living there or nothing, but it was just one of those nights where she was kind of, needing some support. And, they had dinner, they were just hanging out. She went to bed, and her heart stopped in her sleep. And
Wow.
my dad just thought she was sleeping in, walked in that morning to kind of just check on her and see if she needed anything, and found her there, blue, obviously, and not breathing. And so then he, obviously had to call the authorities and everything, and then later called all of us siblings and broke the news to us. And it was, it's something that, hopefully people don't go through, but I think it's through adversity, things like that really define our character, defines who we are. And I think those people who have faced more adversity in life, I just think they're the strongest people in life, really. I mean, they've had a battle, they've had to overcome hard things, and it's just set them up to be more successful generally in life.
Yeah, man, thanks for sharing that. How old was she when she passed?
29.
Okay, so really young too, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I do think too, I'm curious your thoughts on, how does all of that sort of help build your third F, or your faith? I mean, I'm sure, I mean, it sounds like you have faith in God and a higher power, and as you mentioned, right, sometimes those moments make us stronger, have more faith. But what's been your journey from a faith perspective?
Definitely from a faith perspective, I do have strong faith. I used to be, the kind of person that went to church every Sunday, and I'll admit I'm not able to do that as much anymore. I have probably excuses and reasons that aren't good enough for that. But that aside, I still am a person of strong faith and conviction. And, like I see things different now than I used to. And I always look for signs, because it's crazy. They're everywhere. One thing that's become symbolic of my sister is the yellow butterfly. And it was, I know when she first passed, we started seeing yellow butterflies. And, it was like, I remember the first time I was driving to the cemetery after, her life ceremony, if you will. There was a yellow butterfly that came up to the car window. And, and I'd been hearing from my mom, like, hey, we saw these yellow butterflies, and we think it's like a symbol of your sister. And I'm just like, oh yeah, okay. I didn't really think too much of it. I'm just like, my mom is obviously struggling, and she's trying to, just find something, just find Rachel again. Right. And then I started kind of, noticing that. I was like, that's crazy. And so I told the story, and then it's just, just like, just weird. Like this year, last month would have been her 36th birthday. Yeah, 36, 37. Anyways, and I'm in my backyard, and it's April, and it's like too early to have butterflies. And there's a yellow butterfly in my backyard, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I turn the TV on, and it's got one of those smart TVs, Roku, and they changed like the background for spring, and it's like an animated background, and there's like 2 yellow butterflies flying across. And I'm like, all this on, her birthday, right?
Yeah.
And so like, to me, that's part of my faith now. Right? I see those signs. I know there's, a divine reason that we're all here. I know there's it helps me understand more of the purpose. I don't think we ever fully understand that, but it definitely helps me in my faith. And, I definitely fall short a lot of days on that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's wow. That's really cool. The butterfly, I'm sure maybe is also sort of a sign of the resurrection, and I don't know. That's just a lot of cool stuff there. I think, it's interesting. You mentioned like you pay attention differently now, and I feel like basically with my story in my life, I pay attention differently now too, and I feel like it's like stuff maybe has always been there. I just have not not been looking for it.
Yeah.
But curious, and I'm assuming, I think a lot of guys relate to sort of this journey of like maybe they used to be more plugged into a church and have just fallen away. Is that sort of since COVID, or just with kid activities, or what's kind of in the way for you there?
Yeah, I think those definitely are probably the two main reasons. I know prior to COVID, we were going every Sunday, and then obviously that shut things down. And then, we're so busy. I think we were sitting there like writing out our schedules for these next 2 weekends, just as an example. And with kids sports, I think, we're going to Kansas City, leaving for Kansas City today. We've got 4 soccer games down there for my son. My daughter here has to stay. She's got softball. She's really busy with soccer. I've got another daughter in cheerleading that travels a lot. And so, we find ourselves a lot of times doing a tournament or an out of town trip on the weekends. And I think it's, I talked earlier about habits. And so, we've fallen out of that being a habit of us going to church every Sunday. And it's something I think about a lot, I want to get back into that. Even if it's just the occasional Sunday, because we can't go every weekend because we have a lot of stuff going on.
Well, even in the Bible, right? I'm assuming it sounds like you identify as a Christian. Is that? Yeah, I mean, even in the Bible, right? There's mention of like the church is not a building, right? And so I definitely think I think about community, and just we need connected to a group of like-minded people, or even different people sometimes, right? To just help us keep pursuing, that we would experience or grow our faith. And so I think that can be done, even without a church. But are you doing anything in that space? I mean, I think F3 is definitely one, but anything, maybe it's reading something, or any habits there that you've developed just to keep growing your maybe spiritual, emotional health?
I think not actively like trying to pursue that right now,
Mhm.
but like I talked about, it's been something on my mind as of late. I was a lot better pre-pandemic, where
Yeah.
I was volunteering at the church, leading, participating in a small group study, regularly, reading the Bible, challenging myself to try to, read the Bible in a year. Some things I did. I helped teach, you know, um, you know, kindergartners and first graders in some classes for a couple of years at church on Wednesday evenings. Did a lot of that, and that was great. And kind of had to step away from that a little bit during, when the pandemic hit. And then definitely, I think more of my volunteer. I'm big on volunteerism, we kind of talked about, and so
Yeah.
like, I'm a volunteer coach. I'm a volunteer on the soccer board. I give a lot of my time there too, and just being able to have an impact on young lives is something that I guess, spiritual or not, I think it kind of is just being able to help develop youth and help them, be successful, learn life lessons.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge, man. No, I love that. I think the one thing, something that I'm sort of noticing, right, is like a lot of guys say like F3 is kind of like their church, right? And at least in my experience, it's really easy for church to become like a silo and not part of your everyday routine or the other things you need in life, right? And so like one of the cool things I think F3 does is it's combining the faith with all these other aspects of life, and then relationships, right? And so like I've been guilty of, church is like the place you go on Sunday, but I don't talk to anybody I go to church with throughout the week. And, so it almost feels like the community aspect of F3, whether we know it or not, right? COTs and pre-run conversations and like God's working through all of that just as much as he would if you were showing up on Sunday, so I don't know. I think it's a really cool, I don't know. Does that feel like your same experience maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think before F3, it was definitely probably something that was more in a silo, right? Where that was Sunday morning, you come home, you take off your clothes, and then you're doing yard work or going to the kids' games. But now I think, with F3, right? That third F, it's something that it should be ingrained in us who we are. It's a component of everything we do every morning, right? I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
pray out after the COT every morning, and so I think that's just a great way to start the morning. Now the sun's up in the mornings, just these mornings right now. I mean, this is the best time of year. It's just beautiful, and
Yeah.
when you have a meaningful COT and a good prayer, to close out after a hard workout. I mean, there's really no better way to start your day.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's good COT, a good, good workout and a good cup of coffee and
Yep.
Especially on a Friday morning. I got, I would know. Tell me a little bit about we talked a little bit about leadership with your VQ. But I want to get your, kind of take on the, taking over at the farm, and then would also love to hear like the succession planning and just what that's all been like from a leadership perspective.
Yeah. So I didn't really expect to be carrying a flag that soon. I just didn't know. I'd seen other guys that, came a little bit before me, like Swiper. Took over sanitarium early. I think he was in that 6 or 7 months in, but he was like, Swiper is a lot more of an extrovert. He's an outgoing guy. He was like accelerating crazy fast. I think on his first day he pre-ran, right?
Yeah.
And then a guy like Animal House, he started a little bit after me. I did listen to his, podcast here yesterday, which was awesome. Him and I become, we knew each other, we're acquaintances, but we've become pretty good buddies through F3, and being able to watch him, take over a site. And then I took over the farm about a week later, I think after he took over, over there at Titan Alley. And so, danger zone, I called it the wrong thing.
That's right.
But so when Ferdinand, the farm is something I was there every Friday. I was free running. And I just think, Ferdinand recognized that, and he's like, hey, would you be interested in taking this over? And I was just like, kind of, wow, what does that entail? What kind of commitment would I need to make? And so he's like, let's just grab lunch and we'll talk about it. And so we did. We met at Chick-fil-A one day and just had lunch, and he told me why that was the first person he wanted to ask. He explained why to me. He saw the example I set by always being there, being present. He's like, I don't think I've ever seen you miss a pre-run at the farm. I don't know if I can say that about anybody. And so I agreed to do it, not knowing exactly what I was taking on at the time. It was just a fantastic experience for me. And then when it became time for me to start thinking about, who was next, I was kind of struggling. Like, I don't know. In fact, people started telling me that, and then Skidz kind of approached me about it, and guys were telling me that he really wanted to do it. And to me, that was like, well, great, because if somebody is that passionate about it, they want to do it, then I know they're going to do it well. And Skidz doesn't do anything small, right? Like, you can talk about the flag pass if you want, but it was pretty epic. All the stuff he put into that. And so I know Skidz is going to give the farm all of his energy. He's very dedicated. Really excited to see, it hasn't been very long yet. It's only been a few weeks since that flag passed, and really excited to see his leadership over there and how he just keeps that site running, and, any changes that he wants to make. I'm fully supportive of Skidz, and really happy that he was able to take that site over. He's a guy who's been doing F3 for a while, gone through some injuries, and he's back. He's healthy. He's a great leader.
Yeah, man, that I'm so glad I was able to get down there for the shovel pass, because it was, talk about a party, and it was on Cinco de Mayo, right?
Yeah.
So it was perfect. But you had the costumes, the taco costumes, and then I don't know how many stations did he have. It was
think he had 9 stations. Yeah.
Yeah, 9
All
stations.
all farm stuff, right?
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
tractor. There was a tractor push, and the only one we didn't do that I guess maybe it was more of a Ferdinand era type of thing. Although I haven't been able to post there much, but the bullpen burpees, I was expecting
Oh,
those
yeah.
to come out,
Yeah,
but
we did. We talked about that, but kind of where we were set up, we decided we had so much other stuff going on.
yeah,
We had our gun station, so yeah, there was a bit of planning. There was some Zoom calls that kind of went into, Ferdinand was a huge part of the planning for that too. So the three of us would, we met a few times, and Ferdinand and Skidz, they did all the setup because it was like they went out there like Thursday night, the night before, and I couldn't go. I had soccer, of course,
yeah,
and they set everything up, and they were sending me like videos and pictures and like trying to FaceTime live me as I'm in a meeting for like a soccer meeting, and I like couldn't answer, and um, like just the craziness from things that you haven't really seen in an F3 workout, right? Like who does a tractor pull, who hangs a rope 20 some feet up in a tree for a rope climb, just
yeah,
um yeah,
yeah.
a lot of good stuff.
Hey, if for you and anybody else that's listening, I want you to ask Tater Tot how he did on the rope climb.
Did he get rope burn?
I would just ask him about it. I think
All right.
he tells the story well. It sounds like the first, he was maybe the third guy in his group. The first two guys made it up there, and then you'll have to ask him what his experience was with the rope
I
climb.
think I saw it. I was worried he was gonna fall.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's way harder than any of us thought it would be. Yeah, I know it was
Yeah.
good. And then there was a pinata. I mean, and then we had 5 F&Gs or
Yeah, 5 F&Gs. That
yeah,
pinata came down with one swing, and
yeah,
Skidz filled it with some small adult plastic beverages, and those were cracked open from, I think we named that guy. We named him one. What did we name him?
one hit wonder maybe
One
or
Hit Wonder. He
yeah,
crushed that thing. Yeah.
yeah. That was a lot of fun. I do think I was sort of reminiscing right back to the start of the farm and man, Ferdinand brought that idea forward, and I think there were, a few of us that were skeptical, right? Like, who's going to show up to a workout at, we have nobody in Springfield and look at it now. I think just
Yeah.
a prime example of free to lead and kind of proving that this point that like, if a guy has an idea and a passion to lead, and he's got, a couple other guys that are willing to support him, you can do anything. And now, I mean, we've done Santa Saunders there. I mean, it's become a really, really kind of a staple in the region and definitely in Sarpy. So appreciate your leadership there. Anything you feel like, maybe more on a leadership side, but any like advice or I don't know, maybe also curious, like anything you feel like that role taught you that you were able to apply to other areas of life or
Well, I think some guys maybe don't think of themselves as a leader all
Hmm.
the time, but there's so many different ways to lead, and you don't even know you're doing it at times. And this morning, sometimes I'm out there just setting, I don't know, maybe I lead by example a lot just because, I'm consistent. I try to be consistent, running. I don't really do it to get noticed or anything, but like this morning, for example, back at the farm, Q-Tip was leading, did the beat down, and the Nugent flag was out there, and Sundance had just gotten it yesterday. Sundance is a newer guy to F3, younger guy. He's starting a family. Well, he's got a family. He's got a second kid on the way. Just a guy I've gotten to know, and a guy who started pre-running, and now he's just accelerating like crazy. I think he's running faster than a lot of us now. Always setting PRs and stuff. And so he passed the Nugent flag to me this morning and talked about me and how I've helped him. He looks up to guys like me. And I mean, I didn't expect it at all. It just kind of reminded me, that no matter what, you may not think you're leading somebody, maybe you're setting an example, but
Hmm.
people are watching, people are looking, and everybody leads in a different way, a different style, and we all have an impact on each other. So it was a reminder to me this morning about, I didn't realize I had an impact on him, and it meant a lot, right? I mean, it's very special to receive that Nugent flag, and so for him to pass it to me this morning, meant a lot. I didn't expect it at all. I figured he was going to give it to somebody completely different than me, and so when he handed it to me, it was like, wow, man, Thank you. Thanks for
That
thinking
is
of
cool.
me. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and you mentioned consistency, so in the Q source, right? There's sort of the five C's of leadership, right? It's like candor, commitment, consistency, contentment, and courage. And I think I've seen all of those in you. But I think there's something about just a guy who comes out and is consistent and like maintains a good attitude and is always trying to push himself and others around him to get better. And I think I don't know, F3 has opened my eyes to like there's actually a lot more guys that are that way than what you see
Yeah.
on TV or at the grocery store or whatever. I think we've got a whole group of guys that are really just trying to be consistent in their lives. I'm curious too, from your perspective, just kind of thinking of your story, right? And the kind of stuff with your sister and the development of your faith and being a leader. Do you feel like as a site Q, you had a chance to just sort of steward other guys and their journey, or what was that like from a leadership perspective?
Yeah. I really enjoyed being able to do, be able to talk to guys and, whether it was hosting a VQ out there and helping guys who were nervous to do it for the first time,
Yeah.
encouraging them to do it. Those were special. Or, when there were some special things we did out there, like that, just dates that happened to fall on a Friday. We had Veterans Day. And so
Yeah.
I got a hold of some guys, some veterans, and I was, wanted them to lead the workout, and it turned into just like one of those most like a very memorable day out there. Or when it was, breast cancer awareness month last year, we had some different guys who have helped kind of champion that out there to Q. And, it was like, we were trying to help raise money. And then the last one of the dates we brought Pit Stop out there. And I think we all know the story about his wife, how she had breast cancer. And so I got him on the Q schedule. And I remember during his COT that day, this is last October, he, because his wife was in remission. Well, he talked about some concern because she had, I think it was, if I remember right, I'm trying to recall, but I believe there was a lump in her armpit or something, and
Mm-hmm.
she had some stuff going on. And he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to the doctor today and whatever." And well, I heard the next day that they went, and obviously the diagnosis wasn't great, and they ultimately ended up finding that I think they found, was it a small brain tumor that she had?
Yeah, metastasized to the brain. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then the next week I had already had it was going to be the last, one of the series of 4, breast cancer awareness month, like beatdowns that we had kind of planned. And we had Skidz and why am I drawing a blank right now?
Maybe Escobar.
Thank you. Skidz and Escobar were on the queue, and they said, "That's it. We're going to pack the house." Right? They got as many guys. I think we had 40 some guys packs come out there, and it was just really a tribute to Pit Stops and Lindsay, and just turned into like kind of like a really spiritual time where there was a lot of prayer. There was, and gosh, the power of prayer is real, and very thankful to hear now that Lindsay is doing great. It was kind of, I know it was scary for Pit Stop and family for a while, and the doctors and everything have done a fantastic job in her treatment, and I think that the treatment helped shrink that, and they're keeping a close eye on it, but she's pulled a 180 and is doing great again.
Yeah.
So some of those things that I was able to do while my time at the farm just been very special to be able to try to just be a small part of those moments.
Mm-hmm. And that, to me, that's like a perfect example of kind of what we were talking about with faith, right? Of like, that's not your typical Sunday in church, but that's like a huge spiritual thing, right? All of that, right, is like, I just, you're talking about health and life and people coming around other people in their community to show the love and to encourage them. I mean, I think that's phenomenal. I love that, man. And appreciate you leading through that. I think some people don't realize how many site queues get kind of bombarded with like special dates or holidays or things that fall on that day of the week. And I know how that goes. Sometimes it's like, oh crap, let's do something special for this day. And you're the one to lead it, right? Because it's at your site. So appreciate you doing that. Anything else from your perspective, just maybe advice or experiences or things that you would want to share with guys that are listening?
No, I think I don't know if we have any guys out there listening that have been thinking about F3 who haven't maybe given it a shot, but we don't get better. We don't get, we don't challenge ourselves by staying the same, by not, introducing new things in life. So I'd say take the plunge, give it a shot. I mean, it's life-changing. It's been life-changing for me for the better. You start for the fitness, right? I mean, that's usually the first reason we all show up, but that's not the glue. That's not what holds us or keeps us there. It's the brotherhood, it's the fellowship, and for many, I think the faith as well, and just all the different things, the components that go into these mornings that, and it branches out. It's not just the morning. It's, throughout the day, I'm getting messages from F3 brothers, and there's encouragement. There's jokes. I mean, if I ever need a good laugh, I just open up WhatsApp and I can see guys like Tenacious D always posting some crazy gif about something crazy. I don't know, just, guys are there for each other. So, I mean, as far as advice, I guess, just, if you're not fully in F3, try it. I really think there's something for everybody there. There's this fantastic group, and I'm never looking back. I want to keep this going for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep EHing. Hey, another question we've been asking guys, this came from Wait Time and Tater. They did a sort of co-queue on the anniversary week, but they had this question. What's something that you thought was important when you started F3, and what's something that you realize is more important now?
Well, I think, almost going back to my last comment about what I thought was important was the fitness, right? I'm like, well, I want to stay, get back in shape or stay in shape. And so maybe this is something to try. So that's, again, probably what I think most guys would say on that. What kind of brings them to F3. But what's more important is the impact that F3 is having in the community, really. And it's, developing leaders. And I've seen a lot of guys, just blossom in F3, just guys that, I think they've grown so much confidence and in a good way to try new things, become better fathers, men, leaders of our community. And I mean, going back to our core principles and our mission statement, I mean, it's a real thing, and it's happening every day. It's right in front of us. And, I think we're all seeing it and seeing these guys step up all the time. And so I think that's become the important part, just that development of, community improvement, a lot of good second F stuff is happening. We're giving back in a lot of different ways. And I love seeing how that's growing, whether it be through, donating blood or the scholarships we're giving out, or helping out food pantries, community cleanup things. I've seen a lot of it, and it's pretty special.
Yeah, it's crazy too to think about the impact that we probably won't ever see in our lifetime, right? Of like one conversation with a guy, encourage him to be a better husband or father, or could change, his kids' lives, or just I think it's pretty cool. Just those the things we'll never know, right? Maybe someday we'll be able to ask SkyQ about it. I do want to also give you a chance to brainstorm with me. What should we name this episode? What would you name it if you got to choose?
We're pretty big on callback
stuff
here in Sarpy, and when I say my name, everybody's says Beets, and so it's really simple, but I'd say Beets by Schrute.
Okay, and is that Beets with an S or a Z, or what? How do you?
It's Beets.
Okay, Beets like the vegetable.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome.
White Schrute, the beet farmer. Yep.
That's awesome. It's funny. And it's funny too because there's still like we're not sure how we landed on that name too. Swiper will have to tell us.
Swiper will tell you. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, this is great, man. And I would just encourage you, I think like I mentioned, your leadership at the farm and kind of like you said, right? It's like you're not looking back, just keep leading. I think you're doing an excellent job and have done an excellent job. So it's just cool to hear your story. I think a lot of guys will relate. So thanks for taking time to share. Let's do little name-rama. Brandon Fleehardy, 37, The Plague.
The Plague.
Ah,
PJ Bedrowski, 43, Schrute.
Schrute, Beets. Awesome. Thanks, man. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a great
Later, brother.
weekend.